You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje. Today I refocus on corruption. We had an edition some months back on corruption. But today I talk to someone in an organization which is doing something about it. Enjoy the program. You're welcome back. It's the Policy Council. I have a special guest, Mr. Soji Apampa. He's the Executive Director of the Convention on Business Integrity. And together we'll be talking about public and private sector corruption. Soji, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Now, tell us, what is Convention on Business Integrity?
Basically, the Convention on Business Integrity was started as a project of integrity organization.
Okay.
In the early days, we had 3 projects. One was to deal with corruption in the private sector, one corruption in the public sector, and one for corruption in civil society.
Okay.
And the project that was for private sector became larger than the organization and was separated, and that's how we created the Convention
CBI.
on Business Integrity.
Okay.
And basically what it does is to find ways of putting in the principles that will encourage you and I to join together with other people to do something about the corruption that hinders growth of our business, that hinders our ability to comply with standards and to really do business the right way, and the way we would like. So that's what the group is trying to combat.
And how do you try to do that? What are your mechanisms? What are your structures? How do you go about it?
The simplest way of describing it is Esusu and Ajo. If you look at how Esusu and Ajo work, where people put some money in a pot and you take that pot of money and use it to help one of the members, it's the same principle here, where companies who already have some credibility come together and throw their credibility in a pot and give it to another company that is deserving, that they believe is deserving.
Okay.
And if it helps them get better access to finance, better access to markets, and better access to know-how and skills, then we would have proven that integrity pays.
Okay, so the objective is to demonstrate that you can do well while being an institution that
by doing right.
By doing the right thing.
Yes, you can. So we're not fighting corruption by fighting corruption. We're fighting corruption by demonstrating viable alternatives to corruption for business growth and sustainability.
So I know that your members sign up to something.
Yes.
What's that, and what's the philosophy behind it?
The thing is, it's a mutual accountability system. Therefore, if you are going to be accountable to me and I to you, there must be some basis, some common shared value system. And that's what people are signing up to. That I am saying publicly on this day, this is what I believe, and I'm joining this group. Because to police it, becomes very difficult if nobody else knows about it. So part of our rituals is that there's a public signing ceremony where you have to say in front of all your stakeholders, I'm joining this group, this is why I'm joining, and this is the standard to which I should be held from this day
Nigerian
forward.
organizations joining?
Yes, Nigerian organizations.
Are you at liberty to name some of those who are signed?
Yes, certainly. Standard Chartered Bank, for instance.
That's a British institution.
British institution with Nigerian staff. Okay. MTN Nigeria, you say it's South Africa, Abi.
GTB,
Guaranteed Trust Bank, yes. Cadbury Nigeria, will you say it's British?
Nigerian.
In ownership. You have Riskwatch Insurance.
Okay.
You have Omalayole and Co.
Okay.
You have Providence Securities,
Lagos
Business School.
Okay.
There's quite a number.
Okay.
But what we were not going for was numbers. For the sake of numbers. What we were going for was example. To show and demonstrate some leadership, and also gather enough learning to show that this is a way in which you can operate in a highly corrupt environment.
So these institutions that have signed on, they commit not to pay bribes?
Yes, they sign on in a public way, at a media event and they read out a declaration which says they will not pay bribes, they will not allow their agents to pay bribes on their behalf, they will adhere to the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There are a number of things that they declare publicly, and the idea is if you declare publicly, and this is the leverage, if we find you flouting any of those things, we have to disown you publicly.
And then you expel them from...
Oh yes, but there is a process.
Okay.
After due process, then if they are to be expelled, it has to be public.
Okay. Let's take a short time out. This is getting interesting. I'll be right back with Mr. Olusoji Apampa, Executive Director of the Convention on Business Integrity. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
You're welcome back. It's the Policy Council. My name is still Okwemi Agbaje and my guest is still Olusoji Apampa.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the private sector corruption. You know,
Yes.
we Nigerians have always felt that Nigerians, especially private sector business, would like to posture as if this government is corrupt. But we have arguably the same level of corruption in the private sector.
Let me put it this way. Public sector corruption is not possible without private sector collaboration. Whether, and as soon as you say that, then this immediately start to distinguish themselves. We are organized private sector. Are you saying it's organized private sector or just private sector? Well, to me, it doesn't really matter. It's still private sector.
We saw the banking crisis. We saw massive corruption.
Yes.
Unbelievable level of corruption by private sector leadership. All of the governors, we have ex-trial bank CEOs
Yes.
now on trial, even for helping public sector officials do the money laundering.
Yes.
So it is clear that we have a private sector corruption at a level in which, even in spite of the evidence, we don't really focus on it. What has been your experience in terms of persuading organizations in signing on? Do you find that organizations that tend to know that they are not above board, what attitude do they take to integrity?
There are different classes of organizations. You have those who would not get involved in corruption regardless. They're in the minority. A few of them, it doesn't matter what you put before them, they won't be enticed.
Okay.
You have some that will never take part in integrity activities regardless of what you're offering, because that is their modus operandi.
That's their business model.
They're also in the minority.
Okay.
Those who are in the majority are those who tell you we're doing it because we don't know how to survive. That's the majority stance of most businesses. So they would tell you, if I don't, my competitor will give. And so we get into the prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah.
You know, so if I don't do it, they will do it and they'll succeed, except we all do it together. I can't unilaterally stop it.
So we find that we're in a trap in which corruption envelopes people without their...
Oh yes, there's even a whole process of socialization.
Exactly.
Because if you want to get involved in public sector procurement and so on, there are people who will school you on how to get through the tenders, and you soon learn the ropes. That, in fact, some say by the time you see the tender come out, it's not for you.
Okay.
If you're learning about the opportunity when the tender comes out, don't worry, it's not for you.
Gone.
It's not yours. Your name is not on it.
But
the work has been done.
Yes.
And
my fear is that private sector corruption, we significantly downplay the size of it. Let me put it to you this way. The average professional who gets work from a bank or from a company, does he pay somebody to get it?
Let's talk about advertising. How are those budgets managed?
Exactly.
And how do those companies win the brief?
Exactly.
Is it just on the basis of merit?
Exactly.
I know of very few examples who've actually walked away from a big account because they were asked to make a payment. And one is Prima Garnet Ogilvy.
Who is a member of your...
which is a signatory, where we know they actually walked away from an account because they were asked to make a payment.
So procurement managers in the private sector are as guilty of corruption on average, not everybody,
Yes,
as in the public sector.
very much so. Yes.
Okay, let's take a short time out. We'll be back to focus on the public sector and see how the dynamics of corruption are developing in that space. We'll be right back.
My name is Femi Durojai. Welcome to the New Lagos, where things are improving every day. I work on the island and live on the mainland. But that's no longer a problem. With improved roads, I get to work faster. Sometimes I even leave my car and use the BRT bus, which is comfortable, fast, efficient, and reliable. After a hard day's work, the nights and evenings are even more fun. The streets are better lit, and the city is more secure, so I can catch my phone in peace. I pay my taxes because I want to continue enjoying the good things a big modern city like our Lagos brings. So it's my taxes that makes them real. Have you paid your tax?
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back. This is still the Policy Council. Soji, let me ask you, how about the public sector? How is corruption evolving there? What do you experience? What's your experience?
Truth is, this administration, even if it wanted to, it would not be able to fight corruption. Because if you look at the way our leaders emerge, if you look at the way certain people occupying certain offices have emerged, you will know it is impossible for them to fight corruption without dismantling the whole process through which it's like committing political suicide. Especially when you depend on some of these same people you mentioned in the private sector as the key financiers of your campaign. Let's take the subsidy probe. You look at the specific companies that were named, and some of the bigger ones were contributors to the campaign, well-known contributors to the ruling party. So, if you want to be cynical, how far could that probe really have gone? Look at the people who are also being prosecuted, in quotes, the son of the
party chairman,
the party, and big people in the party. I would be very interested to see how these cases actually roll out. Let's take also the way the EFCC itself has been, how the leadership has been chosen. It's through a very political process. Since the removal of Ribadu, we've seen a lot of politics involved with how people get there and how they're maintained. So exactly what is going to happen.
So all of the posturing is just a charade.
Well, I'm saying even with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying there isn't a desire to fight corruption or there isn't an intention. I'm saying there isn't an ability. The opportunity is not quite there.
So if we must reduce public sector corruption,
yes,
the process of campaigns, the process of funding political activities, the process of organizing elections must be sanitized. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the people themselves must actually see, there must be social consensus that there's actually a problem. You find that when EFCC tried to arrest James Ibori in Ogara, it was a mini battle. Because the community did not agree that he should be arrested. Same thing for Alamisea. It was not agreed by the community that he's our son. You said he stole our money. It's our money. So leave him alone. We'll sort it out, as the PDP says, with it's a family affair. We will sort it out amongst ourselves. But these things damage the rule of law and they damage our institutions and don't allow them to function properly. So I think the progress is going to come really from a pact between private and public.
Public sector.
Both sides are going to have to come to some kind of realistic agreement that it's true we can't deal with all corruption overnight. We want to attract foreign investors. Let's agree that we'll clean up customs, we clean up immigration, and we clean up the process of registering companies and so on, that's the only way it can happen.
What's your view about the role of the judiciary in all of this? We've seen the very embarrassing case of the fellow who took 23 billion naira and was, what did he pay? 750,000 naira, which he promptly counted and paid.
I think he even brought 800,000 and told some people to keep the change.
Keep the change.
Yes.
Yeah. So because even if, to be fair to the government can claim today that we charge all of them to court. Most corruption cases have been charged to court, but none, or maybe very few, have been successfully concluded and some judgment given. They either are perpetually adjourned or they just die off. So government can claim that what else do we do? By the constitution, our job is to file the cases in court, and then the legal system takes over.
Yeah. We saw all sorts of gymnastics when Anduaka was the Attorney General.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of schemes that have gone on. In this particular scheme, the person in question admitted to taking 3.2 billion, and he was one out of like 5 people accused for the overall 23 billion. But he entered this plea bargaining thing with the EFCC. Now, strangely, EFCC decides to charge him under 2 sections of the law. One in which he can only be charged for 2 years, and the other where he could have gotten up to 14 years. And in the plea bargain, they sort of settled on the 2-year one, but said that they impressed on the judge that he must at least, for demonstration value, go to jail. And the justice, that's not in our law.
Yeah.
And that they now claim that the justice didn't hold up his end of the bargain and allowed him to just pay the fine without going to jail. I mean, that's the story that we hear.
Yeah.
What that really is telling us is that there is still a lot of discretion that can be taken in the whole administration of justice system that makes a mockery of the rule of law in a place like Nigeria.
Especially when it concerns rich and powerful people. Because the poor get thrown into jail for stealing a loaf of bread, or indeed I saw cases in which people were jailed for stealing 5,000 naira or like that.
Abdul Rashid Maina, who is very controversial today, but that task force that did the work that brought these people before the courts said there are at least 73,000 people in the cartel that controls the pension, the stealing of the pension funds. 73,000 people across this country, highly placed people. So how far do you really think these cases are going to go? So it's the same, it's back to our political economy as a country, and the interrelationship between politics and economics.
Let's take a short time out. We'll come back for our final segment, and I'll ask Soji whether in his view corruption is increasing or decreasing in Nigeria. We'll be right back.
Government wants our city to become a mega modern city. And so, government is providing modern markets for us to carry out our business. Now, this requires money. So, we need to pay our taxes to help government to help us. I pay my taxes. I hope you've paid yours. I pay. Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back to the Policy Council with Soji Apampa, Executive Director, Convention on Business Integrity. So is corruption increasing in Nigeria or decreasing? Let's say from 1999. How do you track the graph?
If you look at it, 1999, there was a lot of talk, not much action. 2003, when the president seemed to have a bit more power behind him, he took more decisive action on corruption. By 2007, Nigeria was being recognized as making some kind of progress. It reflected in our corruption perception index because that index has a lag. What you do today, it doesn't show up in the indices for another year or two before it comes up. So the things that we were beginning to see in 2007, 2008 as improvements showed some kind of improvement in the fighting corruption. We have since dipped. And if you look at the specific types of cases, I think the cases of grand corruption, or should I even call it grand theft?
Grand larceny.
Yes, I think that those cases have increased, not reduced. We have had also cases involving foreign companies. So there was one involving bribing customs officers, another one involved bribing very highly placed people who are rumored to be in the presidency. That's what we understand, but it's not been
But
officially
none of those cases
revealed.
has been prosecuted in Nigeria.
No, not in Nigeria. Back to the political economy, because the people behind the economics are the people behind
It would
the
have been
politics.
impossible for Nigeria to prosecute the Halliburton case.
Yes.
In terms of our political economy. Okay, let's accept that. So, CBI, or is it Integrity, is doing something about this? I hear it's called egunje.info.
Yes,
What's
egunje.info. Okay. What we said is this. Is there a way we can force their hand? That what if there was a way to collect the number of complaints of bribery cases, and you were able to show that this particular quarter, more than half of it was for the private sector than for the public sector? Does it already say something? I think that organized private sector and the rest of them would have to respond to that. Then secondly, what if it was for government and you said, oh, it's not just all government tarred with one brush. It's actually this particular service delivery agency, for example, NEPA, and you say it is NEPA that is responsible.
Or police.
Or police.
Or customs.
Exactly. Then it becomes easier for government to say, well, they're not calling all of us thieves, it's these ones, let's fix the problem. And we believe that if that happens, ordinary, weak, disenfranchised people can actually set the agenda for government.
So what are the people supposed to do?
Simply report. We say, if you were not asked for a bribe, report. Let's know where you can actually get government services without paying a bribe. If you are asked for a bribe, please report. Let's know where it is. And then a pattern emerges. We know whether it's in Lagos or it's in Abuja or Kano that corruption lives. We know whether it is in this sector or that sector. And what we do, we now take the trends. We go to Public Complaints Commission and go with them to the government agency involved to say, is there any way you can be helped? So you don't keep recurring as the problem. And that way it will help us focus the advocacy where we're trying to get redress. It will also help ordinary citizens understand where their problem is. The problem in as far as corruption is concerned. They'll be able to trace it as well.
So what are Nigerians supposed to do? Send them an email to egunje.info?
You can report yourself directly on the website. You can go to the website and download an app for your phone. So anywhere you see it, you can make your very secret anonymous report and we'll receive it. Or you can call the numbers, and we've been having the numbers on the press. We also announce the results on radio. We're partnering with Brekete Family Show in Pidgin English, giving out details of what's coming up. But the surprising first trend we found was that the biggest thing was not police corruption. The biggest thing was bribe for jobs. That's where the reports have been showing that ordinary people are being asked to pay money before they can even access jobs in the public.
For government.
Not only government, even in the private sector.
Wow.
Yes. That's what we found.
egunje.info. We'll be right back. Now that's a story about an organization, CBI and Integrity, who are doing something to stop corruption in Nigeria. What are you doing? What can we do? All Nigerians must rise up against corruption because it subverts the possibility that this country will develop. It denies our citizens of the benefits of democracy. It denies them of sustenance. It denies us our future. Patronize this website, egunje.info, report cases of corruption, and do whatever you can as an individual to prevent corruption from destroying this country. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.